Let's look at question 31 to 40 of the 2020 Physics JAMB examination questions. Question 31 here says, the strength of an electromagnet increases with A. Decrease in the number of turns of the coil, B. Decrease in the current with the coil, C. Increase in the distance between the pole, D. Increase in the current without the coil. Now for this question, you want to note that the strength of an electromagnet increases with a decrease in the number of turns of the coil. Others are increase in current without the coil. So for this question here, the correct option there is A. All right. The strength of an electromagnet increases with a decrease in the number of turns of the coil. So that is your correct answer. Question number 32. 32 says, two equal masses M placed 5 meters apart have a gravitational attraction of 6.7 times 10 to the power, this should have been minus 5, 10 to the power minus 5 Newton. What is M? Take the value of G, this should have been G2, G, which is the universal gravitational constant. So take capital G as equal to 6.7 times 10 to the power minus 11 Newton meter per kilogram squared. Now, how do we solve? This should have been Newton meter squared per kilogram squared. All right. So how do we solve this particular question? So you have option A, option B, option C, and option D. How do we solve this particular question? Now, recall the formula for 32. Recall that the formula from Newton's law of gravitation is that F is equal to G M1 M2 all over R squared. Here's my formula. But they said that M1 and M2 are the same thing. All right, they said two equal masses M. So no longer M1 and M2, just M. So from here we'll have that F is equal to G M times M. Right? If the first M, the second M all over R squared. Now you're asked to find the value of M. For this question, if you look at this, we'll have that this is F. Proceeding with this, we have F from here. This becomes F is equal to G. M times M gives you M squared all over R squared. This is all over 1. If I cross multiply this times this, G times M squared. Gm squared times 1 gives you Gm squared. From here we have Gm squared is equal to F times R squared gives you Fr squared. Divide this by G, divide this by G. This cancels this. So we have that M squared is equal to Fr squared all over G. To get the value of M, I'll take the square root of both sides. So M will be equal to the square root of Fr squared, this all over G. Now let's bring in values. What's the value of F? F here is this one here, 6.7 times 10 to the power minus 5. Okay, so this is equal to square root of 6.7 times 10 to the power minus 5. This is F. F times R. All right, what's R? Distance of separation, distance between them. What's the value here? They said place 5 meters apart. So R is 5. So this times R there, which is 5, all over G. G there is the universal gravitational constant, which is given here as 6.7 times 10 to the power minus 11. So let's say this 6.7 times 10 to the power minus 11. You have this. All right, let's work on this. This is equal to, so I'll get my calculator there. I'll just point the final answer. All right, so you can punch this on your own and get your answer. For me, I'll just punch the final answer. So I'm taking the square root of numerator is 6.7. 6.7 times 10 to the power minus 5 times 5 divided by 6.7 times 10 to the power minus 11. So please punch correctly. All right, punch correctly. If you punch this correctly, your value would be So this is equal to, the value here is 5,000. All right. So you have 5,000 and we're measuring M. M is mass in kilogram. So my answer here should be 5,000 kilogram. All right. That's the value of M. Coming to this. So looking at this, none of these options are correct. All right. They ask what is M. But you notice that if I do m squared is equal to 5,000 squared, which will give us 2.5 times 10 to the power 7. And that will be option B. So I think it's an error from them, right? But the correct answer here is 5,000. So N is actually equal to 5,000, of course, in kilogram. So I think they did not take square root, which they should have. Moving on, question number 33. 33 says, which one of the following is a vector quantity? A, temperature gradient. B, mass. C, work. D, time. So which of this is a vector quantity? For this question here, the correct answer there is A, which is temperature gradient. You want to take note that temperature gradient is a vector quantity, which means it has both magnitude and direction. Now, for temperature gradient, the direction is that it moves or it points towards the maximum rate of temperature increase. All right, that's the direction. Temperature gradient points towards the maximum rate of temperature increase. So the answer there is temperature gradient. Meanwhile, mass, work, and time are all scalar quantities. Question 34. 34 says the property of a body to remain at rest or to continue to move in a straight line is known as A, force. B, impulse. C, energy. D, inertia. For this question, the correct answer is D, inertia. Right? Inertia is the tendency or the property of a body to remain at rest or to continue in its uniform motion in a straight line, except or unless it is being distorted by a force. So that's D. Question 35. 35 says the symbol X used to represent which of the particles, all right? That should be the symbol X is used to represent which of the particles? A, protons. B, neutrons. C, electrons. D, atoms. Now, if you're used to nuclide symbol, you know that when it comes to a nuclide symbol is simply the symbol of an element showing its protons, neutrons, and electrons, basically its atomic number and its mass number. So for an element, you'd have something like X, like this. You have M here, where M here is its atomic number, also known as the number of protons, and N here is the mass number or atomic mass, which is the number of protons and neutrons. Basically, X here is used to represent the atom of an element. So for this question, the answer will be D. It is used to represent an atom of an element. Question number 36. 36 says, a structural engineer stood on a top of a building releasing a light and heavy object to the ground. Which of the following statement is true? They said neglect air resistance. A, both the light and heavy objects, have been objects, reach the ground at the same time. B, the light object gets to the ground first before the heavy object. C, the heavy object gets to the ground first before the light object. D, none get to the ground first. So what's the answer to this question? So you picture this, right? If you have this as a ground floor, this, then you have a height here, right? You have a height here. Somebody stands at the height here, right? Holding two things here, a lightweight and then holding a second one. They're at the same position here. And then you have this one here, a heavier load. All right, somebody stands here. Let's call this position A, and then leaves these two to drop. Let's use L for light, H for heavy. Which of them will get to the ground first? Will it be the lightweight or the heavyweight? Now, picture this. If I drop a feather, all right, if you leave a feather, take a feather to a height, or probably a leaf of a tree, take it to a height, and then leave the leaf or the feather. You observe that the feather dangles in the air. It goes like this, it moves this way, and then goes this way, and then moves this way, and then goes this way. It doesn't fall straight, no. It just dangles left and then right, and then left, swings to the left, and then swings to the right until it gets to the ground there. The reason why the feather moves left and right is that something is trying to oppose its motion, and that thing is known as air resistance. Air resistance. All right. All right, so it falls slowly to the bottom here or to the ground because of air resistance. Meanwhile, if you have a massive object and you leave the massive object, the object falls straight to the ground without dangling left and right because the air resistance is not sufficient enough or is not big enough to handle the mass or the weight of the heavier objects. So what that means is that it is because of air resistance that heavier object gets to the ground first before lighter objects. In essence, if air resistance is taken out of the equation, nothing will stop the light object or nothing will make it to move left and right. In essence, it will fall straight. That means if you neglect air resistance, emphasis on if we neglect air resistance, you observe that both lighter objects and heavier objects will fall at the same rate and they will reach the ground at the same time. So for this question here, the correct answer would be A. All right. So both the light and the heavy objects will reach the ground at the same time because we have input neglected air resistance as given in this particular condition, all right, or this question. Okay, question number 37. 37 says, which of the scientific instrument or tool is used to measure accurately to 2 decimal places in centimeter? A. Meter rule. B. Vernier caliper. C. Micrometer screw gauge. D. Measuring cylinder. So for question number 37, what's your correct answer? For 37, the correct answer there is B. Vernier caliper. You want to note that a vernier caliper is used to measure an object accurately to 2 decimal places in centimeter. So B, vernier caliper, is the correct option. Take note. Next up, question 38. 38 says, which of the following options is right if an object falls freely to the ground? Number 1, the total energy is kinetic. B, or number 2, the ratio of potential energy to kinetic energy is constant. Number 3, the sum of potential and kinetic energy is constant. A, 1 only. B, 2 only. C, 3 only. D, 1 and 2 only. Now for this question, the correct answer is 3 only, all right? You want to note that when an object falls freely to the ground, provided that air resistance is neglected, the sum of the potential and kinetic energy is always constant, okay? It is important to note that in a free fall, the gravitational potential energy decreases as the object moves downward. Meanwhile, the kinetic energy increases as the speed increases. But then, if you look at it, the sum of both the potential energy and the kinetic energy is always conserved, is always constant. Although it might change from potential to more kinetic or from more kinetic to more potential at some points. All right. So 3, that's C, 3 only is the correct answer. Question 39. Question 39 says, heat losses to the surrounding is possible through the following except A. Conduction, B. Convection, C. Radiation, D. Expansion. Of course, generally, when we talk about heat losses to surrounding, it's possible through 3 major ways: conduction, convection, and radiation. So the exception there is D. Expansion. So expansion is the correct answer. All right, finally, question number 40. 40 says, which of the following will increase the boiling point of water? I, taking it to a high altitude. II, dissolving a salt into it. III, heating it in a sealed flask. IV, increasing the rate of heat supply. So you have option A, option B, option C, and option D. So which of the following here is correct? Which of this is correct? For this question, the correct option is C, II and III only. Now for II, dissolving a salt into it. You want to note that when salts are being dissolved into water, what happens is that the salt ions interfere with the ability of water molecules to escape into vapor phase. And this would cause water, or this means that water must reach a higher temperature before enough molecules can break free to form steam. In essence, adding salt would increase the boiling point of water. Also, for III, heating it in a sealed flask can also increase its boiling point. This is because when water is heated in a sealed container, the steam or water vapor cannot escape. This causes the pressure inside the flask to increase. And according to the principle of boiling, a liquid boils when its vapor pressure equals the external pressure. So the normal pressure inside the seed flask will be increased, causing an increase in the boiling point of water. So C is the correct answer. All right, so as usual, I'll leave question 41 for you. 41 says the mathematical dimension of density is written as, you have option A, option B, option C, and option D. So which of these is the correct answer? Leave the correct answer in the comment section. I will tell you, and I will give a reply. I'll tell you if you're correct or not. Okay? Okay, guys, so please take note that we have a JAMB WhatsApp group for 2026 JAMB Bites. All right. So if you're writing JAMB for 2026, we have a JAMB WhatsApp group where we do daily revisions on physics, chemistry, mathematics, and biology. So if you're a science student and you want to join our JAMB WhatsApp group, I'll leave a link to the JAMB WhatsApp group in the video description. All right. You can also join our JAMB channel membership to get access to exclusive content for JAMB Bites, or you can get the full JAMB course on our website. Simply visit www.jonahemmanuel.com/courses and you see the JAMB/WAEC classes. All right. Okay, guys. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. All right. Like this video. Also leave a comment. Right, for the comments, I gave you a task, question number 11. Solve it, leave your answer in the comment section, and I'll tell you if you're correct or not. Don't forget to also subscribe. If it's your first time here or you're yet to subscribe, please do what to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and select all so that you get notified whenever we upload a new content. Then finally, ensure to share this video to your friends and their colleagues so that they can also learn. Thank you and see you in our next class.